Alex Ovechkin plans on hanging up the skates when his contract expires.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. I would love to talk Capitals hockey with you one-on-one, and we can do that on subtext. Just check the show description for more details. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the news that was breaking today. I read a piece in RMNB talking about that Alex Ovechkin plans on hanging up the skates when this contract expires. I think that a lot of people just assumed that if he did not catch Gretzky, that if he did not tie him or surpass him, that he would want a new contract, and he will do whatever it takes to catch the great one, but it does not seem as though that is the case. An interesting thing, and, Alex Ovechkin is the kind of guy that it appears that, when his time is done for playing hockey, it's done. It doesn't matter if he catches Gretzky or not. I think that means more to us fans than it does to him. But in any event, there was news breaking on that today, and Ovi's not the kind of guy that talks much about, things other than post-game press conferences like my game needs work or the Capitals game needs work. You don't hear a whole lot about his personal life. We heard about what happened during the All-Star break when he went to Dubai with his family and they rode on a camel, but you don't hear a lot about him as the man. What does he want? We just assume that he walks and talks and drinks and eats hockey 24/7, 365. And, considering that Alex Ovechkin has done this for almost 2 decades, there's things that are starting to be more important in his life. Ovi recently has started to plan for his life after hockey. As someone that doesn't lace up the skates, I guess I don't know what's going on through Ovi's head. He's 38 years old, and even though he's, really heated up here as of late, he got off to his slowest start of his career. And, maybe you think to a certain extent that he sees that the writing is on the wall. He doesn't want to go out in a whimper. He wants to go out on top. He wants to go out on his terms. And I don't blame him. You don't want to start getting into the Tom Brady category where you're chasing, one more Super Bowl. I think that ultimately when he's done, he's done. So I think this is the point of his career of life and what he's thinking about next. I think as Alex Ovechkin fans would assume that that's all he loves to do is play hockey. He's been playing, like I said, for almost 2 decades. And, this is a life that he's lived. It's not, like one of us is living his life for a brief period. After, 2 decades of playing hockey, I think he's going to be ready to just call it a career. And, he's got young children and a wife. And your life is only so long, and I think that he wants to make the most of it. But for him, I think he looks at his career and his life in hockey and what he's done. He's done. I don't think that he wants to, keep pushing this any further. There's no Tom Brady scenario here or Ilya Kovalchuk, who returned to the KHL with Spartak Moscow this season at the age of 40. Kovalchuk, when he made his return, had not played pro hockey since the end of the 2020-2021 campaign. And there are players like that you see that are constantly chasing something that they feel that they have not lived up to or that has eluded them thus far. You also see Jaromir Jagr, another guy. He's in his 50s, still playing hockey in his home country there. And I guess that's their prerogative. If they really love hockey and it's something that they love doing, then more power to him. But at the same time, we also have to respect Alex Ovechkin. And when he hangs it up, he hangs it up. That's it. So he said when talking about Kovalchuk and the KHL, he says, I check the KHL scores periodically, Ovechkin said. Ilya is great. We talked to him recently, getting ready for the playoffs. I think this man, with his health and approach to business, can play until he is 50 years old. The most important thing is that he wants it himself. And it's not what we as Capitals fans want for Alex Ovechkin. In our minds, we're like, well, Alex, you need to play until you catch Gretzky. You've got to do it. Says who? If Ovi doesn't want to do it, he doesn't have to do it. So it's an interesting position that, Capitals fans that we get into that, we start to project our feelings on what he actually wants. And I think that even if he doesn't catch Gretzky, I think the grade 8 will be willing to call it a career. I really do. Now, there are two sides to each coin. I think that also to a certain extent, maybe even if he was planning on coming back, he wouldn't mention it because he would constantly get badgered about, when are you coming back and what are you doing? I think that to a certain extent, people bothering him about, catching Wayne Gretzky is part of what kind of tied his head in knots to start the season. So I think it's easier to say that, I plan on retiring when the time comes and, maybe he would consider it. Maybe if he's like 5 goals short, I mean, are you going to walk away from that? See, I'm almost projecting my feelings on him right now. But, just from everything that I read here, it sounds like he's willing to call it a day. Still enjoyed, Ovechkin said in October. As soon as I'm not enjoying it, it's probably not right for me to stay here and play the game the way I wanted to play. And that kind of ties in with what I talked about off the top of the show here, is that maybe he sees the writing on the wall, that he is not quite the Ovi that we remember from years before, 40 or 50 goals. And he's projected to hit now 20 or 25. That is quite a marked decline over what he's, used to doing. When asked a pointed question about if he thinks he'll retire after his current contract, he says, I think yes, Ovechkin said, as translated via Google Translate. Some people have speculated if he'll play his last year in the KHL, and he's even hinted at it before. I think he's had a change of heart, and will not return. I just think that, he had talked about maybe playing one more season in the KHL, but I just think that, he's kind of at that point right now that, the gray hair is really starting to come in, and, he's had gray hair for quite some time, but, he's starting to show age on his face, and he sees his kids getting older. And as someone that has kids himself, when you start seeing your kids get older, you see yourself getting older, it kind of starts to put things into perspective. Asked if he would sign an extension if he needed to catch Gretzky. I don't think I would do that, he says. And I don't like the word if, Ovechkin says. We live today, we play, we move on. And that is quite a comment to kind of just make off the cuff. I don't like the word if, Ovi says. We live today, we play, we move on. And as Capitals fans, we have to respect that. When it's his time to move on, we need to respect it. We will always remember what he has meant for this team, his many accomplishments, and that you can almost kind of see the end of the Ovechkin era on the horizon. I think that, it was kind of a foregone conclusion, like I talked about off the top, that if it was in reach, that he would come back and he would move heaven and earth to catch Gretzky. But again, as Capitals fans, we need to understand that that's more of our goals for him than I think it's his goals for him. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about the many accomplishments of Alex Ovechkin thus far. I'll discuss coming up. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Our sponsor today is Camino Consulting. How would you like to get to know someone better in an hour than you would in a year? Understanding one another better prevents small misunderstandings from becoming big ongoing fights. After providing more than 20 years of service to small and mid-sized businesses, helping management groups navigate conflict and onboarding new employees, Camino is offering a digital seminar for families and couples. Did your Valentine's gift of tickets to the game not go over as well as you had hoped? Get the couples and family online seminar for 25% off for the month of February using the discount code Locked On. Again, that's discount code Locked On for 25% off for the rest of the month at www.caminoconsulting.ca, or mention Locked On when reaching out for a business seminar and receive the first 5 profiles free. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we are talking the Great Eight. We are talking Alex Ovechkin and the comments that were made today in RMNB, talking about that he plans on hanging up the skates in after his current contract, So, and again, that is his prerogative to do what he wants to do. And if he in fact wants to hang him up, then I say, let him do it. I mean, who are we to say that, Alex Ovechkin, you need to hang out for, around for us. You need to achieve the goals that we have for you. Again, this piece was in Sports Express by Igor Rabiner. So that was the comments made by RMNB. That was the comments made by Sports Express talking about Alex Ovechkin wanting to hang up the skates after this current contract. Now, to reiterate what I talked about in the first segment is there the chance that Alex Ovechkin would come back if he was close? Sure, but I think that, it's a ways out there that he doesn't need to talk about it right now, that he can deal with that when the time comes. But if we kind of want to gloss and review his career, and when I say gloss, I mean quickly here, as we talk about the many accomplishments that Alex Ovechkin has made throughout his career. First player to win the Art Ross Trophy, the Rocket Richard Trophy, Lester B. Pearson Award, and the Hart Memorial Trophy in a single season. Only player to be named to the NHL first All-Star team in each of his first 5 seasons. Most NHL goal scoring titles with 9. Most goals scored by a left winger in a career, 822. Most goals for a single team, 822. Most goals scored on the road in a career, 411. And there's about 15 more. So when we talk about Alex Ovechkin, and if you want to look him up, it is quite impressive that, I think that's where he's at in his career, that, he has, even if he doesn't catch Gretzky, it's not the end of the world. He still has done a lot of things in his career, and that, he's been the captain for this team, and he's led this team to a Stanley Cup and winning a Stanley Cup. And, I think the biggest thing that has kind of changed, like I said, this year over previous years is his slow start. But, he's turned it on, and now he's on one of his longest point streaks of his career. So he is a bit of an enigmatic guy that, we don't really know who he is. In the beginning of the season, if you had said that he was going to have such a slow start, I wouldn't have believed it. And at the midway point of the season, if someone had said that he's going to go on a tear after the All-Star break, I would not have believed that as well. So Alex Ovechkin is an interesting player. And, at the end of the day, as Capitals fans, we want what's best for Ovi. We talk about that we need change. Well, part of the change is that, the Alex Ovechkin era is going to have to come to an end at some point. And we're going to have to usher in the next wave of young players. It's a sad thing. And, I think that there's a lot of, fans that are my age and, maybe a little bit older and younger that have been with this team since, Ovi first came here. So it kind of makes you feel old as well, because you're like, I remember when he was, so much younger in the showboat, playing in the All-Star game, when his hockey stick was on fire and he was wearing the cowboy hat. And now look at him, 38 years old with gray hair and a couple kids and a wife. It's a big change, and we need to be happy for Alex Ovechkin at the end of the day and be thankful that we're lucky enough to get him on this team. All right, listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This is a Saturday night and a bonus episode, but I thought the big news breaking about Alex Ovechkin warranted an episode. I'll have much more for you tomorrow about the Capitals-Habs game, where the Capitals picked up a big win. I'll talk to you then.